Chapter 8:12. With the arrival of Lu Chen, everything was ready for the first movie of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, except for the shooting. The opening ceremony was set on March 28, and the location was Ningxian Film and Television City. A normal opening ceremony was actually not complicated. The main actors and staff of the crew would gather together, and several media would be invited to interview them on the spot. After that, they would pray to the gods and burn incense. There was no need to make it extravagant, because it would be a waste. If they had the money to squander, it would be better to spend it on online media. The publicity effect would be several times better. But the opening ceremony of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was extraordinary. It was directly made into a grand opening ceremony. Hundreds of domestic media were invited, plus more than a dozen from Hong Kong and Taiwan. It was a great momentum. Not only the media, but many important officials of Ningxian County, including Luo Rong, the head of the county, attended the ceremony at the same time. There was also a publicity minister of Changshan City, which was the superior city of Ningxian. The treatment was very high. Of course, these local officials were not there to chase stars. They mainly wanted to take this precious opportunity to promote Ningxian Film and Television City and Ningxian Scenic Area to the outside world, so as to promote the development of tourism in Ningxian. According to the plan of Ningxian County, tourism would become one of the important economic pillars of Ningxian County in the next 10 years. They regarded The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, which was about to start shooting, as a lever to promote tourism in Ningxian, so there was no doubt about the strength of their support. Apart from other things, the rent for the crew to stay in Ningxian Film and Television City was so low that it made Lu Shi feel embarrassed. The hotel rooms booked by the main actors were also heavily discounted. In addition to other considerate services, the crew could save at least a few million yuan. What Ningxian County asked for was that The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer could shoot a few more scenes in Ningxian and stay for a longer period of time. Of course, Ningxian County would not suffer because of this. After the news spread, the number of searches for Ningxian increased by at least 100 times on the search engine. Especially the photo that Chen Feier posted on her blog and the poem that Lu Chen wrote for her, the number of tourists who came to Ningxian recently increased exponentially. All the hotel rooms in the Ningxian Film and Television City were booked out. Other hotels in the county were also doing well. The tickets for the scenic area, which was originally quite quiet, were now selling like hotcakes. Big numbers of tourists who drove by themselves increased. Just the immediate benefits could be seen, not to mention the long-term impact. The more Ningxian County paid, the greater the return they would get in the future. Therefore, under their strong request, the opening ceremony was made into an opening ceremony. As for Chenfei Media, of course, they were willing to cooperate, because things like setting up the venue, maintaining security, entertaining media reporters, and so on were all covered by the government. It didn't require the crew to spend much thought and budget. At most, they could use Lu Chen and Chen Fei's connections to invite well-known media. This time, a lot of media came to participate in the opening ceremony. Reporters from several major portals and social networking websites were there. From major websites and social networking websites: Net, Ynet, She, Net, Waves, One, Fei, and Web. There were 300 to 400 people sent by various media. There were hundreds of people from the crew and hundreds of guests. As for the audience who heard the news and came to the scene to watch the ceremony, including the local people of Ningxian, this newly completed film and television city ushered in the most lively and noisy moment since its opening. Flowers, prayers, colored arches, salutes, high rostrum. If it weren't for the big words written clearly on the big red banner, it would be hard to believe that this was an opening ceremony for a movie. Changshan TV station was broadcasting this event live. In the noise of gongs and drums, the ceremony officially began. First, the leaders gave a speech. This was also a local characteristic. After all, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was produced in Ningxian Film and Television City, which was also a political achievement of the local government. If they didn't take the opportunity to show their faces and promote it, what was the point of working so hard? Fortunately, several leaders knew that the media reporters were not easy to deal with. Especially these major portals, they really didn't take them seriously. Therefore, each of their speeches was concise and comprehensive, and it was over in a few minutes. And then, it was back on track. The process of the opening ceremony did not need to be elaborated. Basically, it followed the usual routine. The focus was still on the media interviews. Mr. Lu Chen, it's almost April. Lu Chen, Chen Feier, Chen Guizhi, Mu Xiaochu, Tong Xinyao and other main actors sat in a row behind the long table, facing the cameras and questions of the reporters. The first one who jumped out was a reporter from EasyNet Entertainment. Before the host's voice died away, she couldn't wait to ask, "There is not much time left. Can the smiling, proud wanderer be released in the summer as scheduled?" Facing her sharp question, Lu Chen smiled and said, "You should ask Director Chen this question. But I can also answer you. The screening time of the first film of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer is decided by the shooting and production. First of all, we have to ensure the quality and effect of the film. We will never make a shoddy production just to meet the schedule." Lu Chen's answer made the reporters in an uproar. The female reporter from EasyNet immediately asked, "So you won't meet the schedule in the summer? Is it a skip?" "A skip?" Before Lu Chen could answer, Chen Guizhi raised his eyebrows and said in a low voice, "When did we say that The Smiling, Proud Wanderer will be released in the summer? Film is a rigorous art. Even commercial films can't just follow the fast food route. We have prepared for such a long time, and we want to make a real masterpiece. Even if the screening time is delayed, it doesn't matter as long as it's worth the money spent by the audience." After being rebuked by Chen Guizhi, the female reporter from EasyNet Entertainment sat back in embarrassment. She dared to talk back to Lu Chen, but she dared not to talk back to Chen Guizhi. Because Chen Guizhi was very influential in the film and television industry, and he had a lot of connections. She didn't dare to offend him. So if she made things difficult for Lu Chen, people would applaud her, but if she disrespected Chen Guizhi, the result would not be good. In a sense, Lu Chen tried his best to invite Chen Guizhi to be the director of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, because he wanted to use Chen Guizhi's influence to protect this important new wuxia blockbuster. The effect was great. Then another reporter raised his hand and stood up. He asked, "Mr. Lu Chen, what is your expectation of the box office of this film? Can you tell us?" This question was not easy to answer. Everyone's eyes were immediately focused on Lu Chen. Chapter 8:13. Apart from those fake movies, the box office results of domestic movies were actually quite difficult to predict. No director or big stars dared to say that they could completely grasp the audience's preferences. And the factors that affected the box office of a movie were not only limited to the movie itself. In 2015, there was a domestic blockbuster with an investment of $350 million. The combination of a big director and a big star stole the limelight. The early publicity was even more vigorous, and there was even a top cinema chain among the investors. Both inside and outside the circle were very optimistic about the box office of the movie. The media all thought that it would be a record-breaking film. As a result, the box office in the first 3 days was indeed very gratifying. It earned hundreds of millions. However, the audience's reputation was very bad, and soon there was a steep decline. When it was finally released, the total box office was barely over 500 million. It could be said that it was a big loss. On the contrary, there were some movies that did not have much publicity before the release, and there were not many stars in the movie, but they became very popular in the market and made a lot of money. Therefore, with these precedents, people were very cautious when it came to box office predictions. Unless it was for the purpose of hype, they would try to be as modest as possible. Nowadays, many audiences, especially the young ones, had a rebellious mentality. If you exaggerated too much, they would feel that it was tasteless, so they would not contribute to the box office. Therefore, the question that the reporter asked Lu Chen was really difficult to answer. If Lu Chen said it was high, he would be suspected of being overconfident. If he said it was low, then the media would have something to say. Was there something wrong with his lack of confidence? To this, Lu Chen answered seriously, about this question, before you asked me, I really didn't think about it carefully. My attitude towards movies has always been to do my best, and then let the audience judge. If the audience's evaluation is good, then the box office will naturally be high, and vice versa. When everyone thought that Lu Chen was using Tai Chi to avoid this question, Lu Chen continued, but since you asked, my expectation for The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer is 1-to-1. 5 billion, 1-to-1. 5 billion. There were soft exclamations among the reporters, and there were whispers of discussion. Based on the current film market, Lu Chen's expectation for the first film of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was quite high. After all, Sword of Mount Hua only invested 150 million in publicity. A production cost of 150 million versus a box office of 1.5 billion. That was definitely a huge profit. Was Lu Chen really not afraid of failing? However, Lu Chen had not finished his words. A box office of 1-to-1. 5 billion yuan. In addition, I also hope that The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer will have peripheral sales no less than a Chinese ghost story. A Chinese ghost story. It was only then that everyone remembered that Lu Chen's confidence was not without reason. This was not his first time making a movie. His first work, A Chinese Ghost Story, had a total box office of more than 1 billion yuan, and its peripheral sales exceeded 150 million yuan. Not only did it set a record for the peripheral sales of domestically produced films, it even left most of the imported Hollywood blockbusters behind. At first, there were a few reporters who couldn't wait to ask Lu Chen questions about the box office, trying to find something to hype up, but now they were all silent. The box office of A Chinese Ghost Story was real. It was not fake at all, especially the peripheral sales. At that time, many people didn't believe it. Some media even conducted a special investigation and found that there was no fraud. At that time, Lu Chen could only be considered a newcomer in the film industry. His foundation was far from being as strong as it was now. Then who dared to say that The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was definitely not as good as A Chinese Ghost Story? So it seemed that Lu Chen was really not too confident about the box office of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer's first film of 1-to-1. 5 billion yuan. It was not a problem to say that he was being modest. After all, the cast of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was far from what A Chinese Ghost Story could compare to. In terms of publicity, the former was even better than the latter. The reporters were speechless for a moment. Fortunately, someone came to the rescue in time. He stood up and asked Chen Guizhi, Director Chen, may I ask why you decided to direct The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer? In fact, this reporter wanted to know how much Chen Fei Media had paid to invite this big shot. After Chen Guizhi changed to a commercial blockbuster, there were always investors carrying suitcases full of money in front of his house. If there was any inside story, he believed that the gossipy public would be happy to hear it. Chen Guizhi was a shrewd character. Of course, it was impossible for him to be asked such a question. He smiled and said, I am directing The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, on the one hand, because Chen Fei Media is very sincere, and I am also very happy to work with young and powerful actors like Lu Chen and Chen Fei. After flattering Lu Chen and others, Chen Guizhi continued, in addition, I like The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer very much. I think this novel is very well written. It has created a new trend of wuxia. To have the opportunity to direct The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer is both an opportunity and a challenge for me. I'm very willing to face such a challenge. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a warm applause. This kind of scene was very rare in media interviews, but Chen Guizhi was not an ordinary director. The interview continued. The reporters' questions were naturally mainly focused on Chen Guizhi, Lu Chen and Chen Fei. However, as supporting actors, Mu Xiaochu and Tong Ximiao also got some questions. Their answers were in line with the norm. They did not dare to act out of line on such an occasion. When the interview was about to end, a reporter asked Lu Chen, it is said that you will marry Chen Fei, after The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. Is it true? What? This question was interesting. Everyone's eyes were focused on Lu Chen again, including Chen Fei. Lu Chen was speechless. Who made up this rumor? Who made up this rumor? Although he was speechless, he still had to answer the reporter's question. He thought for a while and said, "Thank you for your attention on my personal feelings. Chen Fei, and I will give you an answer at the appropriate time. But now our job is to make this movie well and not disappoint the fans who have been waiting for a long time." The reporters were disappointed at first. It was a bit of a pity that they could not dig out the big news from Lu Chen's mouth. When the best couple in the entertainment circle would get married was undoubtedly the question that countless people cared about. But it was not so easy to dig out the big news. After the media interviews, the opening ceremony of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was completed. But then Lu Chen and Lu Shi attended a signing appointment on the spot. Chenfei Media invested $375 million to buy 35% of the shares of Ningxian Film and Television City sold by Ningxian County Government. Chapter 8:14. As the most important investment project in Ningxian County, Ningxian Film and Television City had been invested more than 500 million yuan. The purpose was to create a future economic growth hotspot in Ningxian County. County Magistrate Luo Rongjeng was the promoter of this project. It could be said that it was a political achievement project led by him. The success or failure was closely related to his political future, so he attached great importance to it. Before Chenfei Media entered the Ningxian Film and Television City, this business card, built with a lot of money for Ningxian tourism, was in a very awkward situation. The income generated after the operation was not enough to cover the daily expenses, let alone recover the investment costs and loans. Luo Rong's position in the officialdom was shaky. That was why he went all the way to the capital to fight for the live shooting of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer in Ningxian. At the beginning, he promised that he was willing to sell shares of the Film and Television City to Chenfei Media, and even let Chenfei Media be the controlling shareholder. In fact, from the situation at that time, Luo Rong was completely throwing away his burden. He also wanted to completely tie Chenfei Media to the new ship of Ningxian tourism, and ride the waves with the help of a strong sail. Now that The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer had officially started shooting, the share transaction was natural. Lu Chen and Lu Si were originally half of Ningxian people, and have a considerable understanding of Ningxian. Some time ago, Lu Si brought people to investigate, and also determined that Ningxian films and TV plays have considerable investment value. The two sides can be said to hit it off. Most importantly, Chen Fei, liked the scenery of Qingning Mountain very much, especially Crooked Creek Town. She even decided to buy an old house in the town and live there when she had time. With a solid foundation for cooperation, the negotiation between Ningxian County and Chenfei Media was very smooth. The conditions offered by Chenfei Media were very favorable. The total investment amount was 500 million, and the proportion of shares was very large. In other words, according to the conditions proposed by Ningxian County government, as long as Chenfei Media invested more than 250 million, they could get 50% of the shares of the Film and Television City. However, in the actual process of negotiation, Lu Shi proposed a new agreement on behalf of Chenfei Media, and re-evaluated the actual value of Ningxian Film and Television City. Finally, she proposed to Ningxian County to exchange 375 million for 35% of the shares of Ningxian Film and Television City, and continue to invest in the next 3 years, finally achieving 65% of the shares. In addition, the management unit of the Film City, which was originally completely controlled by the government, would be split into a new company to operate and manage the Film City and gradually complete the transfer of shares. This made Ningxian County feel incredulous. According to Chenfei Media's agreement, it was equivalent to spending a few hundred million to obtain the same shares. Not only did they not bargain, they even took the initiative to increase the price. According to this agreement, not only would Ningxian County quickly recover all of its investment, but it would also be able to realize profits in 1 or 2 years. Although they had to give up the controlling stake, it would completely revitalize this big project, and it would be more effective in promoting the local economic development. Who would complain about having too much money? Therefore, the contract was finalized very quickly. After the opening ceremony today, the signing ceremony was actually just a formality. The legal documents that should be signed had already been signed. Although it was just a formality, at the dinner after the signing, Luo Rong privately raised the question in his heart to Lu Chen and Lu Shi. Why did Chen Fei Media choose to take the initiative to increase the price in violation of the business common sense? Lu Chen and Lu Shi looked at each other and smiled. Lu Shi thought for a moment and said, Mayor Luo, although the initial investment of Ningxian Film City is only 500 million, its true value is far beyond that. The scenery of Qingning Mountain and Crooked Creek is priceless. Our offer is not high, and we are willing to contribute to the development of our hometown as much as we can. The plan for Ningxian Film and Television City included a part of the scenic area of Qingning Mountain, and it was the most beautiful part. Ningxian County did not include the value of this part. It was not that they had overlooked it, but it was a preferential condition to attract investment from Chenfei Media. Ningxian County was full of sincerity, but in the view of Lu Chen and Lu Shi, they could not take advantage of this. Chenfei Media could not be labeled as encroaching on national assets for a few hundred million, and they were even more unwilling to be criticized by others for this contract in the future. Therefore, even if they were treated as fools, Chenfei Media must ensure that this important investment was fair, impeccable, and without any flaws. After listening to Lu Shi's explanation, Luo Rong fell into a long silence. His heart was really filled with emotion. In order to revitalize Ningxian Film City, before contacting Chenfei Media, he had also looked for investors everywhere to recommend this project. It was not that there were no people who were interested, but the conditions they offered were very harsh. Some simply got something for nothing, and asked the county government to guarantee and help with loans to complete the acquisition. Compared with those greedy businessmen, what Chenfei Media did could not be described as just kind. He picked up the bottle, poured himself a glass of white wine, raised his glass to Lu Chen and Lu Shi, and said, "You too, I won't say anything else, but this glass of wine is for you. In the future, as long as I, Luo Rong, am still alive, we will always be friends." It was hard to imagine that a dignified county magistrate would say such gangster-like words, but these rather unusual words just happened to express his sincere admiration. Lu Chen smiled and said, "You are too polite. Even if Chenfei Media completes the acquisition of Ningxian Film City, it will not be without your support." Luo Rong laughed and said, "Let's work together, hand in hand." Chenfei Media paid a few $100 million more, not only got an impeccable investment contract, but also the sincere friendship of this provincial official. When time passed, looking back after many years, time would prove everything. There was not much time left for the crew of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. Although this martial arts movie was going to be delayed to the National Day, many people, including many members of the crew, hoped that it would be released in the summer. Because there were several similar movies that followed the trend in the summer. Now that the main character of the movie had dropped out, those following the trend must be proud. How could they bear it? In everyone's mind, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer should be the first masterpiece of the new martial arts movie, and should not be beaten by others. Of course, Lu Chen and Chen Guizhi knew about the mood of the crew, but they tacitly did not interfere, because the high mood was actually very good for the shooting. Of course, the quality of the movie must be guaranteed, and this premise could not be careless. On the basis of guaranteeing the quality, it would be perfect if they could speed up the shooting. That afternoon, the shooting of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer officially began in Ningxian Film City. Chapter 8:15. Ningxian Film and Television City, Ming and Qing Dynasty Antique Street. The gentle wind blew the willows, and the fragrance of the flowers was intoxicating. It was the spring season of the Southern Kingdom. On the ancient long street, a bluestone path stretched out in a straight line. In front of a magnificent mansion, there was a flagpole about 20 feet tall erected on both sides of the stone altar, with a green flag fluttering at the top of the flagpole. On the flag on the right, a majestic lion was embroidered with yellow silk thread. The flag fluttered in the wind, making the lion look even more lively. On the flag on the left, 4 black words were embroidered with Fu Wei Escort Agency. The silver hook and iron stroke were extraordinarily vigorous. On the red lacquer gate of the mansion, the copper nails the size of a teacup were shining. On the plaque on the top of the gate, for golden words, Fu Wei Escort Agency, were written, and 2 small words, Head Office, were written horizontally below. There were 2 rows of benches at the entrance, on which sat 8 well-dressed men, each with a straight back, showing a heroic spirit. Note 1. Suddenly, the sound of hooves could be heard as 5 knights filed out from the side door of the escort agency. Among them, the young knight was dressed in a brocade robe with a long sword hanging from his waist. His handsome face had a faint smile on it. More than 10 meters away from the knights, 2 4K digital cameras worth millions of yuan were aimed at them from different positions, capturing the real-time images. Further away, there were all the nervous and busy staff members of the production crew. As the protagonist of today's shooting, Zhao Haichao, who was riding a white horse, had a really complicated mood. He had fantasized, longed, and looked forward to it thousands of times, but when the moment really came, he found that he was not as excited as he had imagined, and even frightened. Perhaps it was because he had been lost, disappointed, and sad countless times. Zhao Haichao was a graduate of the Performance Department of Beijing Film Academy in 2015. It had been 4 or 5 years since he entered the film and television industry, and he was no longer a newcomer. However, he had shot several films and TV series, but he had never become popular, so his situation could be said to be quite embarrassing. Zhao Haichao's appearance was actually very good. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to defeat hundreds of competitors and be admitted to the acting department of Beijing Film Academy with a high score. However, his luck was not good. The roles he played were all small supporting roles, and several of his plays were also very bad. He did not accumulate much popularity for several years. His career didn't improve, but his youth flowed away like water. At the end of last year, Zhao Haichao took out all his savings and borrowed a lot of money from his relatives and friends to negotiate with the management company to terminate his contract. The management company that received the compensation did not make things difficult for him. They parted on good terms, so it was not a big deal. The signboard of Beijing Film was very loud, but how many students who graduated every year could make a name for themselves? The competition in this industry was too fierce. There were waves after waves of newcomers entering the industry. If one wanted to make a name for himself, it was impossible to rely on academic qualifications. One had to know how to hype up, have support from others, and be willing to put in the effort. Even then, one might not be able to become famous. Zhao Haichao's family could barely be considered well off. It was not easy for them to provide for Nian Jingying, and there was nothing else they could do. They did not have any connections that they could use. He never counted on his family. He thought that with his own hard work and talent, he would be able to make a name for himself. However, the cruel reality made the once naive youth mature quickly. It was only because of the persistence and stubbornness in his heart that he did not completely abandon his bottom line. 2 months ago, when Zhao Haichao submitted his resume to Qinfei Media's mailbox, he did not expect to get a chance at all. Because the movie, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, attracted too much attention. For an unknown actor like him, submitting his resume was no different from buying a lottery ticket. At that time, Zhao Haichao had already thought about it. If he couldn't find any opportunity in Beijing, he would accept the invitation of a senior and go to the deep sea in the south to shoot a web drama. Although it was a small role, he could at least earn tens of thousands of yuan. What Zhao Haichao did not even dream about was that only 2 days after he submitted his resume, he received a call from Qinfei Media asking him to go for an interview. When he first received the call, Zhao Haichao thought that someone was playing a prank on him or that he had met a scammer. Then what happened next was just like a dream to him. The interview was successful. There were no tricks or unspoken rules. The salary in the contract was not high, but it was fair and reasonable. The role that he was given was an important male supporting role. Thinking back to the news that he had passed the interview for The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, his classmates and friends all thought he was joking. Some even mocked him. Zhao Haichao's smile became brighter and brighter. Ka! A loud voice pulled his attention back, causing his body to involuntarily tremble. I passed. Zhao Haichao immediately let out a big sigh of relief. He quickly pulled the reins to stop the horse and got off cleanly. He learned how to ride a horse when he was shooting a historical film more than a year ago. He suffered a lot and put in some hard work. Although he was not as good as those real riders, he had mastered a skill. At that time, Zhao Haichao thought that it was good to have more skills. He could not be the main character and could not enjoy the treatment of being flattered behind people's backs. If he knew how to ride a horse, he might have more opportunities to show his face. Opportunity came in handy now. In fact, during the interview, he was asked if he knew how to ride a horse. Zhao Haichao thought that this should be one of his points. Well done, Director Chen Guizhi stood up from his chair and said to Zhao Haichao, "Get ready for the next scene." The next scene is the real test. This sentence was said by Lu Chen to Zhao Haichao. He had been following Chen Guizhi all the time. Chen Guizhi would only direct the first part of the smiling, proud wanderer, Sword of Mount Hua. Lu Chen decided to direct the next two parts by himself. He knew that he was not good at directing, so he invited Chen Guizhi to come over and learn from him. Chen Guizhi was very good at directing, and he was willing to give advice. Although it had not been long since the shooting started, Lu Chen had already learned a lot. Once this movie was completed, he would have the foundation to direct it independently. Lu Chen was also very satisfied with Zhao Haichao's performance. He was the one who chose Zhao Haichao to play the role of Lin Pingji. It turned out that his judgment was right. This was a piece of unpolished jade. With a little bit of thinking, it would shine. Lu Chen was also looking forward to his performance in the next fight scene. Director Chen, Director Lu, I will try my best. Zhao Haichao nodded. He was pleasantly surprised. In the past, it was not easy for him to meet a famous director like Chen Guizhi. He could not even talk to a big shot like Lu Chen. Compared to now, it was like heaven and earth. It was as if he could see a beautiful new world opening up to him. His life would be different from now on. Chapter 8:16. Ka. The sudden sound was not loud, but Zhao Haichao, who had just thrown out his left palm, shivered subconsciously. His whole body froze, and his face flushed with shame. The shooting location in the afternoon was in a roadside pub. This scene was very important. As one of the main supporting roles, Lin Pingji met Yu Lingshan for the first time, and his fate changed. Therefore, there were more scenes. As the actor of Lin Pingji, Zhao Haichao had suffered more than a dozen NGs in his first fight scene. Although it was very common for actors to suffer NGs, and even the top actors made mistakes, for Zhao Haichao, who was determined to make this role outstanding, more than a dozen NGs were undoubtedly a big setback. Your movements must be clean and neat. Lu Chen stood up from the director's chair and walked quickly to the actors. He gestured with his hands and said, "The leaping action just now was qualified, but the palm was too slow, which made the connection of the moves not smooth enough." It gave people the feeling that it was very stiff. Zhao Haichao suppressed his anxiety, and listened to Lu Chen's explanation carefully. He tried to remember and understand, and at the same time, he danced and imitated, but his movements were a bit funny. Zhao Haichao had shot fight scenes before, but the movements were very simple, nothing more than punching and kicking, and then speeding up the post-production to add special effects. The smiling, the proud wanderer was completely different. This was a new martial arts movie, completely different from the action movies and the popular martial arts dramas in the 80s and 90s. The essential difference was the fight scenes. The martial arts scenes of the smiling, the proud wanderer were extremely demanding. After getting the role of Lin Pingji, Zhao Haichao had basic training in the Lu family class for nearly 2 months, and thought that he had mastered some of the key points. But when the shooting started, he found that he was still not well prepared, and couldn't completely let go in front of the camera. "Brother Yong, let's demonstrate." After patiently explaining the key points of the movements, Lu Chen called Wan Yong over. In the first movie of the smiling, the proud wanderer, Lu Chen was the leading actor and action director, so the whole fight scene in the afternoon was directed by him, and Wan Yong, the head of the Lu family class, was the martial arts director. Wan Yong nodded and replaced Zhao Haichao's opponent to face Lu Chen. Everyone's eyes were focused on the two of them. Zhao Haichao's eyes were fixed on them, afraid that he would miss the slightest detail. Lighting, camera, actors, get ready. Action. Although it was just a demonstration, it was still carried out according to the rules. Along with the sound of the clapper, Wang Yong looked at Lu Chen with contempt and sneered, "Fu Wei Security Agency? Never heard of it before. What's that for?" Wang Yong used to be a soldier. After retiring from the army, he became a security coach in the club. Later, he was discovered by Lu Chen and became the class leader of the Lu family's class. Originally, he had no acting experience. However, as the saying goes, practice makes perfect. Lu Zheban made a name for himself in the industry through a Chinese ghost story. Later, he also participated in the filming of You from the Star and was hired several times, gradually accumulating a lot of experience. Wang Yong was no exception. He recited a few lines very well, portraying his character's fiendish temperament very well. Lu Chen jumped up and shouted, "I specialize in beating up dogs." The next moment, he struck out with his left palm. Without waiting for the move to finish, his right palm had already pierced through the bottom of his left palm. It was the move, Heaven and Earth in the Cloud. His movements were as smooth and natural as flowing water. The little actress has some skills. Wang Yong's eyes narrowed. He waved his left hand to block Lu Chen's right palm. At the same time, he quickly grabbed Lu Chen's shoulder with his left hand. Lu Chen immediately lowered his right shoulder and punched with his left hand. It was strong and powerful. Wang Yong hurriedly turned his head to avoid it, but he didn't expect Lu Chen's left fist to suddenly open. When the fist opened, it instantly changed into a palm. The direct attack turned into a sweep, and the move, Flowers in the Fog, slapped heavily on his face. Actually, it wasn't a real slap, but Wang Yong felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His entire head was slapped to the side. In anger out of humiliation, he fiercely kicked at Lu Chen. As a result, Lu Chen twisted his body to avoid it and raised his leg to kick back. The surrounding actors, including Zhao Haichao, as well as many extras who played passers-by, and the crew were shocked to see this. They really didn't know that martial arts movies were filmed this way. Most of the people present were amateurs. Some of them understood the filming of action movies. Although the punches and kicks on the screen were full of power, they were basically all produced by special effects and sound effects. The actual filming process was actually very boring, and it was completely fixed in the pattern. As for the sparring between Lu Chen and Wang Yong, although it wasn't very fast, it not only gave people the feeling that it was smooth and natural, but also had a kind of artistic rhythm and beauty. It was pleasing to the eye and even made people's blood boil. Especially when Lu Chen waved his palms and punched. His fists and palms were vigorous, as if he could blow up his opponent with one punch. Such an effect could be achieved in a normal shooting. With the post-production editing, modification, and special effects, how outstanding would it be? According to the setting of the script, in the first film of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, Lin Pingji was just a small character, belonging to the third or fourth rate in Jianghu. He was not even a master at all. In that case, what kind of exciting performances would the protagonists who would appear later on perform? It was so exciting. Zhao Haichao involuntarily clenched his fists. He had never been so determined as at this moment. The determination to play this role well. Done, Lu Chen stopped his fists and called Zhao Haichao and his opponent to the front of the monitor. He asked the camera assistant to play back the scene just now. Practice according to it, and reshoot when you meet the requirements. Zhao Haichao nodded hard. Lu Chen then said to the others, "Take a break for half an hour, and try to finish this group of scenes in the afternoon." The atmosphere at the scene immediately relaxed. Zhao Haichao and his temporary partner ran to the side and continued to practice together. Wang Yong looked at them, hesitated, and said to Lu Chen, "How about using a double?" If Lu Zheban replaced Zhao Haichao, these fighting scenes would have been finished long ago. Lu Chen shook his head with a smile and said, "No need for now. He has a good understanding." Give him more time. In order to meet the schedule, time was very precious for the smiling, proud wanderer. But for Lu Chen, it was totally worthwhile and meaningful to spend some time to cultivate a promising new actor. Lu Chen shooting the smiling, proud wanderer was a part of the Great Wuxia IP plan. And the significance of the Great Wuxia IP plan was not to make money for himself, but to promote the wuxia culture to the market, to the whole world. This might be the meaning of his future life. To achieve such a grand goal, it was far from enough to rely on the strength of him and the Lu Jeban. Chapter 8:17. Sword from Mount Hua, the first film of the smiling, the proud wanderer, had officially started shooting in Ningxian studio. It had been nearly a month, but the shooting was not going well. At least it did not reach the planned progress. It was almost certain that it would not be able to enter the domestic cinemas during the summer vacation. This made the morale of the crew a little low. For this blockbuster movie, Chunfei Media had prepared for nearly a year. It could be said that they were quite well prepared in all aspects. However, during the actual shooting process, they still encountered a lot of problems. These problems were mainly focused on the martial arts scenes. Cut. Chen Guizhi put down the microphone in his hand, shook his numb legs, stood up, clapped his hands and said, "That's all for today. We'll continue tomorrow." On the set, both the actors and the crew members breathed a big sigh of relief at the same time. Today's shooting was particularly tiring. There were both literary and martial arts scenes. The two directors, Chen Guizhi and Lu Chen, were personally in charge. They attached great importance to it. Naturally, everyone was conscientious and did not dare to slack off. The shooting started at 7:00 in the morning, and now it was 9:00 in the evening. Everyone's nerves were tense, and they were very tired both physically and mentally. Now it was finally over. However, after so much effort and sweat, there were not many qualified scenes. They had to reshoot tomorrow. It would be a new round of torture. Lu Chen also stood up and said, "Everyone, go to bed early. Don't stay up late." Of course, he could see that everyone was in low spirits. But that was the way of making a movie. It was not easy to make a real masterpiece. Behind the success, there were often too many unknown hardships. The wonderful things that the audience saw and enjoyed in the cinema needed them to work hard in silence. Lu Chen could only find a way to make up for it. He would not relax his requirements because of this. In fact, many of the scenes shot today were already very good in the eyes of an expert, but they did not achieve the effect that he wanted 100%. It was naturally reasonable that the crew members were under a lot of pressure. At this time, Chen Guizhi said to him, "Xiao Lu, let's go back to the hotel and talk for a while." Lu Chen was slightly stunned and quickly replied, "Okay." When he returned to the hotel, it was already 10 p.m. Chen Guizhi and Lu Chen did not talk in the room, but in the small dining room. Chen Feier, the producer, the cameraman, the stage manager, and Chen Guizhi's assistant were also present. The latter could be considered the director's true confidant. In fact, similar small meetings had been held several times during the filming process. It was so late, and the restaurant of the hotel must have been closed. However, the crew of the smiling, proud wanderer who was stationed here were not ordinary guests. The service provided by the hotel was very good. No matter how late it was not a problem for them to order a meal. Supper was no exception. Chen Guizhi was getting on in years. He paid attention to his health and did not have a good appetite. He was full after eating a bowl of mushroom noodle soup. Then, he poured himself a cup of Longjing tea and slowly tasted it. Lu Chen and the others knew that he had something to say, so they ate casually to fill their stomachs, asked the waiter to take away the plates, and accompanied him to drink tea. After drinking a cup of tea, Chen Guizhi said in a measured tone, "Xiao Lu, we are a lot behind in the filming process. Do you have any thoughts of speeding up?" The filming process was behind mainly because of the part that Lu Chen was responsible for. In addition to acting as the male lead, Lu Chen was also the action director of the smiling, proud wanderer. The action director had appeared in the domestic and foreign film industry for a long time. He was mainly responsible for the design and direction of the fighting scenes in the film. He was the leader in charge of the shooting, scheduling, and editing of all the action scenes. But Lu Chen's action director is different from other peers. According to his definition, the action director of a martial arts film is the person in charge of the design, training, arrangement, scheduling, shooting, editing and other artistic creative activities of martial arts and action scenes in the creation of martial arts action films, starting from the script, director, actors, scene environment and other subjective and objective conditions. The importance is no less than that of the director. The smiling, proud wanderer was essentially different from other action films, including ghost and supernatural films. In order to deepen this difference, Lu Chen was very strict in the shooting of the action scenes. As a real martial arts film, the smiling, proud wanderer had a lot of fighting scenes. Lu Chen pursued the authenticity of the action scenes. His goal was to achieve an artistic sense of reality through the processing of art and technology. Therefore, he had to balance the relationship between truth and falsehood, and strive to embed the martial arts movements in the logical relationship between the characters and the plot, so as to make all the martial arts movements in the film as natural and exciting as possible. To achieve his goal and meet his requirements, it was undoubtedly a lot of pressure for the actors. The smiling, proud wanderer was not a Chinese ghost story. The background of the film was grand, involving Shaolin, Wudang, Wu's sword sect, Sun Moon sect, and many other sections. There were a lot of actors in the film, but most of them lacked experience in this aspect. Undoubtedly, the use of stunt doubles could solve a lot of problems, but stunt doubles could not be used from start to finish. They also needed corresponding training and cooperation. In addition, many extras also had to learn the basic routines. In this way, there were really not enough people in the Lu family team. Many times, Lu Chen had to personally demonstrate and help the actors repeatedly correct them. It would be strange if the shooting did not fall behind. Fortunately, the film was fully digital now, and there was no need for film. In the past, who knew how many discs would have been squandered, and the cost would have been unbearable. Slowing down the progress was a problem, but the bigger problem was the psychological pressure of the actors and the crew. Chen Guiji's tone was not heavy, but there was still a hint of questioning in it, which made the atmosphere in the small restaurant become solemn. Was he expressing his dissatisfaction? Lu Chen felt the pressure from this famous director. He thought for a while and replied in a deep voice, "Director Chen, according to the current situation, it is difficult for us to speed up the progress. I think the first thing we need to do is to ensure the quality and effect. We are not rushing the schedule." Lu Chen had said similar words to the reporters before, but now he was answering Chen Guiji. Chen Guiji was the director of the smiling, proud wanderer, and Lu Chen's words inevitably had the suspicion of challenging his authority. Several important members of the crew couldn't help but panic. If the two of them had a conflict over work, could the film continue like this? Lu Chen's answer was too direct. Couldn't he be more tactful? Or compromise a little? Chapter 8:18. Chen Guiji stared at Lu Chen, his expression solemn and dignified. As one of the top figures in the domestic film and television circle, Chen Guiji not only enjoyed a good reputation in the Chinese circle, but also internationally. He was once selected as one of the top 10 directors in Asia by a famous foreign magazine. In front of Chen Guiji, no matter how famous an actor was, he couldn't act like a big shot. There were more than one or two movie stars who had been scolded by him, including many famous people. That was the reason why everyone was nervous. Chen Guiji was a man who didn't care about anything. No matter how popular and famous Lu Chen was, he wouldn't have a good time if he offended him. If they really had a conflict, it would be a disaster for the crew of the smiling, the proud wanderer. Lu Chen didn't avoid Chen Guiji's eyes. His eyes were serious and honest. The smiling, the proud wanderer was an important beginning of the wuxia IP plan. Its success or failure would directly affect the future development of Chen Fei Media, including himself. For this plan, Lu Chen has gone through a long time of preparation and paid a lot of painstaking efforts. The investment in funds alone has reached hundreds of millions. Moreover, in the foreseeable future, the proportion of investment will only increase, so only success cannot be allowed. What was the key to the success of a movie? Some said it was quality, some said it was publicity, some said it was investment, and some said it was luck. Lu Chen thought these were all important, but the most important thing was the attitude towards the movie, a sincere attitude. Without a sincere attitude, how could a good movie be made? Maybe some people made money through publicity and made a shoddy movie, and some people spent money on celebrities to attract attention. But there was a limit to the audience's patience. Those sensationalist things, even if they could be successful for a while, would eventually be abandoned by the market. Only a work done with sincerity could win real recognition and have a long life and influence. Lu Chen hoped that The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was such a work, and he was also working hard for it. Big delay in the progress of the shooting. And if his insistence made Chen Guoji unhappy, or even caused a conflict, he wouldn't compromise no matter how much he respected him, even if Chen Guoji quit the crew. Chen Guoji suddenly smiled. There was a hint of gratification in his smile, and there was a hint of appreciation in his eyes as he looked at Lu Chen. First, we have to ensure the quality, the great director said with a smile. You're right. I was worried that you wouldn't be able to handle the pressure. Now I'm relieved. It doesn't matter if we miss the schedule. We don't make movies to rush the schedule. His words enlightened everyone, and they couldn't help but smile. The atmosphere in the private room instantly lightened up. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Thank you for your understanding. Why can't I understand?" Chen Guoji sighed and said, "Back then, I was even more stubborn than you. Because of this, I offended many people and suffered a lot. But I persevered and turned all those who mocked me into a joke. I'm old, and I can't make movies for many years. The future belongs to you young people. What I can do now is to accompany you and send you on your journey. You have to rely on yourselves for the rest of the journey." Chen Guoji's appreciation for Lu Chen was not only because Lu Chen had contributed many excellent programs to his Spring Festival Gala, but also because he saw the excellent qualities of Lu Chen. Lu Chen was very young and had outstanding talent. No one in the domestic entertainment industry could match his popularity. But he did not lose himself and become arrogant because of this. Instead, he was modest and cautious. Basically, there were no scandals. What was commendable was that Lu Chen not only had innovation and pursuit in the film industry, but also perseverance and hard work. In Chen Guoji's opinion, if there could be a few more artists like Lu Chen in the domestic film and television industry, it would be much better. His questioning of Lu Chen just now was just a small test. Chen Fei said, "Director Chen, you're still very young." Chen Guoji couldn't help laughing. "I'm really old. 10 years ago, I could make the crew stay up all night with me. I wouldn't be tired even if I were to shoot for 3 days and 3 nights. Now, I have to admit that I'm old." "Xiao Lu, your persistence is right, but you have to pay attention to the mood of the crew." Lu Chen nodded and said, "I know. I'll find a way to boost their morale." Chen Guoji said with a smile, "The director is equivalent to the general of an army compared to the crew. A good general needs to know how to command the battle and how to control the hearts of the soldiers. Only in this way can he win. I believe you will be a good commander." Lu Chen listened modestly and seriously. Lu Chen's respect for the great director in front of him was not superficial. In fact, during this period of time, he had learned a lot of things from Chen Guoji in the film industry and gained a lot of valuable experience. And Chen Guoji was never stingy to teach him, and he took the initiative to give him a lot of advice. Lu Chen believed that after the baptism of Sword out of Mount Hua, there wouldn't be many obstacles for him to direct the next 2 parts of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer in the future. It was not an exaggeration to say that Chen Guoji was his teacher. Chen Guoji spoke, Lu Chen listened, and the others watched silently. This scene was fixed, with an indescribable harmony. The next day, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer continued to shoot in the Ningxian Film and Television City. But before the shooting started, Lu Chen first announced an important news to all the crew members. That was, after the first part of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, Sword out of Mount Hua, Chen Fei Media would take out 5% of the box office profit as a reward for the crew. Everyone would get a share according to their contribution. Money was not omnipotent, but in many cases, the effect of money was direct and powerful. No one knew how much box office The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer could get, but no one thought that this martial arts movie would lose money. Profits were inevitable, it was just a matter of how much or how little. 5% did not seem to be much, but as a reward for the crew, it was definitely very generous. 5% of a 100 million profit was 5 million, and even the most ordinary crew members could get at least a few thousand. If The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer made hundreds of millions of profit, that was totally possible. Encouraged by the generous rewards, the morale of the crew soared, and the most important thing was that the two core figures, Chen Guizhi and Lu Chen, were very united. Under their leadership, the shooting work continued in an orderly manner. One difficult scene after another was shot, and the actors who participated in the performance grew rapidly. After going through all kinds of tests, the progress that was delayed in the early stage was gradually caught up. But when the internal problems of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer were gradually solved, the external pressure appeared again. Chapter 8:19. Mount Hua was a dangerous place. Mount Hua, one of the 5 sacred mountains, was located in the south of Huayin County, western Qin Province. It was 2,200 meters above sea level, overlooking the Yellow River in the north and the Qinling Mountains in the south. It was said in notes to the Book of Water that it looked like a flower from afar, so it was named Mount Hua. It was also called Mount Shaohua because it faced Mount Shaohua in the west. There were many places of interest on Mount Hua, from the foothills to the top. Temples, historical sites, and natural wonders could be seen everywhere. The songs, records, historical records, and folklore of the literati of the past were widely spread. The first song of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, soared from Mount Hua. Since the name of the movie had Mount Hua in it, it must be shot on Mount Hua. Otherwise, it would be a joke. The crew led by Chen Guizhi and Lu Chen arrived at the scenic area of Mount Hua half a month ago. After half a month of shooting, they had only completed less than 1/3 of the shooting schedule. There was no other way. First of all, Mount Hua was extremely steep, so it was very difficult to shoot normally. In order to ensure the safety of the actors and crew, they couldn't rush the schedule. Second, Mount Hua was a famous scenic area, so there were many tourists on normal days. Therefore, even with the cooperation of the management area, they couldn't clear the site for too long, which would undoubtedly slow down the progress of the shooting. Today's shooting was on the Tsanglong Ridge. After ascending the north peak of Mount Hua, turning south, passing the Ear Cliff and climbing the Heaven Stairway, a long ridge appeared in front of them. It was thick and lush, piercing straight into the sky like a soaring dragon. That was why it was called the Tsanglong Ridge. The steps on the Tsanglong Ridge were less than 1 meter wide, and there were deep ravines on both sides of the mountain path, which were as steep as knives and axes. Looking at the green pines and white clouds, and hearing the wind, it was breathtaking. A professional camera drone was flying on the Tsanglong Ridge. The lens of its pan-tilt camera was closely following Lu Chen and Mu Xiaochu, who were walking on the mountain path. From time to time, it swooped down and circled to give a wonderful close-up. Ah! Suddenly, a strong wind blew, which made Mu Xiaochu, who was wearing a pink dress, lose her balance. She couldn't help but scream, and was about to fall to the ground. Fortunately, Lu Chen, who was following behind her, had sharp eyes and quick hands. He took a big step forward and grabbed her. Even so, Mu Xiaochu was so scared that his face turned pale, and tears almost fell from his eyes. She had always been a little afraid of heights, so the live filming on Mount Hua was undoubtedly a huge test for her. However, Mu Xiaochu was a little stubborn and insisted on not using a stunt double to film the scenes at Tsanglong Ridge. Lu Chen asked with concern, "Little Chu, are you all right?" Mu Xiaochu nodded. Just now, she was almost scared out of her wits, but with Lu Chen supporting her and hearing Lu Chen's familiar voice, her heart inexplicably calmed down. She no longer had any fear. "I'm fine. Shall we continue?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "It's done. Director Chen just told me that there's no problem. Let's go back." He was wearing wireless earphones, so he could hear the director's instructions at any time. Big Lu Chen stretched out his hand to Mu Xiaochu and said with a smile, "Come on, little sister, I'll hold your hand." "Thank you, big brother." Mu Xiaochu's pretty face blushed, and she replied playfully. Then, she put her little hand in Lu Chen's hand and let him lead her back the way they came. Although it was very intimate to hold hands like this, Lu Chen didn't think much of it. Because in his heart, Mu Xiaochu was like his own sister, someone who needed to be cared for and protected, but it didn't involve the relationship between a man and a woman. However, when Mu Xiaochu was held by him like this and felt the warmth in his palm, her heart seemed to fly with the wind. The originally steep mountain road suddenly became flat, and she wanted to keep walking and never reach the end. In fact, Mu Xiaochu knew very well that Lu Chen's heart couldn't accommodate another person. She also didn't want to replace Chen Fei, so she buried the girl's longing for love deep in her heart and let time wear it away. However, the feeling of being held like this was really good. Returning to the filming platform where the crew was located, Lu Chen naturally let go of Mu Xiaochu's hand and ran to Chen Guizhi to watch the video replay. If the effect was not good, then they would reshoot it again. "There's no problem," Chen Guizhi was very satisfied. He pointed to the screen of the monitor and said, "Nowadays, drone aerial photography technology is very good. If it was 7 or 8 years ago, it wouldn't have been able to capture such an effect." While they were talking, the drone that had made a great contribution was controlled by the pilot to land safely. This Wujiang drone was currently the most advanced aerial camera in the industry. The camera it carried could capture images up to 8K resolution. Whether it was stability or shooting effect, it could meet the stringent requirements of filming a movie. Of course, it was not cheap. One drone cost a few million yuan, and it also needed to be equipped with 3 professionals to control the shooting. The cost was also quite high. In order to film the smiling, proud wanderer, Chen Fei Media specially ordered 2 drones in advance and paid to train their own pilot. The cost alone was more than 5 million yuan. But the investment was completely worth it. Not only was Chen Guizhi very satisfied, but Lu Chen also couldn't find any problems after watching the video replay. Chen Guizhi stood up and said, "Then let's call it a day." Zanglong Ridge was a famous scenic spot on Mount Hua. It was a must-visit place for many tourists. Not to mention during the day, there were also many people climbing the mountain at night. When looking at Zanglong Ridge from afar, one could see countless stars lined up in a straight line, slanting to the sky and slowly moving upward. That was the tourists climbing the ridge with flashlights or headlights. The scene was very spectacular. Therefore, the filming time here was very limited. Of course, they had to call it a day after shooting. They couldn't affect the normal operation of the scenic spot and the tourists' trip. Lu Chen returned the sword to the staff who was in charge of the props. He turned around and saw Chen Fei, and Mu Xiaochu together. The 2 of them lowered their heads and whispered something. Chen Fei's heroine was not in the scenes on Mount Hua. But she had never been to Mount Hua before, so this time she deliberately came to join in the fun and regarded herself as a tourist. Lu Chen walked over and asked with a smile, "What are you talking about?" Mu Xiaochu raised his head and said angrily, "Brother Lu Chen, someone is messing with us." "Who?" Lu Chen laughed and said, "So boring." Chen Fei rolled her eyes at him and said, "Sister Lu, she just sent me a message. Someone else's martial arts movie is going to be released first. It's very hyped up." "What?" Lu Chen knew that there were a few movies of the same genre that started shooting at the same time as The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. Seeing that the summer season was coming, it was normal for others to release their movies after they finished shooting. But since she was so concerned about it, it must not be simple. Chapter 820. The original novel of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was first published on Waves Books. It was published in the form of a web novel. It didn't make much impact at the beginning, with only a few readers clicking on it. However, the brilliance of this novel, which was the pioneer of the new wuxia novel, couldn't be covered. It was loved by a group of readers, spread in the online world, and finally printed in large quantities. So far, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer had been reprinted 5 times, with a total print run of more than 10 million. It was also translated into many languages and published abroad. It had countless fans. After The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, created by the same author, took over the banner of the new wuxia novel. It was on the best-selling list of Xinhua Book Company as soon as it was published, showing its great strength. In addition, Qinfei Media announced that it had bought the adaptation copyright of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. As long as the people in the industry were not stupid, they could see that a popular IP was taking shape and had great market potential. The most important thing was that many people had a superstitious reverence for Lu Qin, because none of the projects he was involved in had failed, and all of them made a lot of money. He also made a lot of money for his collaborators. Since Lu Qin had bet on the wuxia IP, who wouldn't want a share of it? Unfortunately, it was not practical to directly cooperate with Qinfei Media. It was not a matter of money, but that Qinfei Media was very picky about their partners. It was not easy to get this fat meat. Since cooperation was not possible, they would do it themselves. After Qinfei Media announced that they would shoot The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, many big companies in the industry started to invest in the same type of film and television works. Even the copyrights of many novels that followed the trend of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer were selling like hotcakes in the market. The competition was so fierce, and naturally there were some people who took the unconventional approach. Some time ago, the new 7 Heroes and 5 Gallants shot by the Land Pictures was very popular. The lead actor, Gu Lei, not only was jumping up and down in the blog, but also challenged Lu Qin, trying his best to gain popularity. Although Gu Lei was despised and reprimanded by Lu Qin's fans because of this, the effect of his shamelessness was really good. Not only did his fame soar, but the new 7 Gallant Heroes and 5 Gallant Heroes were also known to many people. If it wasn't for Lu Qin's interaction with Qinfei, to suppress it, he would have probably made a lot of money. With successful precedents like Gu Lei and the new 7 Heroes and 5 Righteous Heroes, there were naturally many people who followed suit. Among them, there was no lack of clever people who chose to draw their swords at the critical moment. The sword was pointed at the upcoming summer holidays. The one who drew the sword was Wanhao Pictures, which had recently become famous in the film and television industry. Wanhao Pictures was considered a new recruit in the film and television industry. It had only been established for a few years, but it had a very powerful background. It was a wholly owned subsidiary of the Wanhao Group. The core of the Wanhao Group, Wanhao Real Estate, was one of the top 10 real estate developers in the country. It could be said to be rich and powerful. It had just entered the film and television industry, but it had already shown its ambition. It spent a lot of money to sign many heavyweight celebrities to join it, causing the industry to be in a state of panic. At the beginning of this year, Wanhao Pictures spent a huge sum of money to buy the film and television rights of the popular new wuxia novel, Young Pugilistic World. It also announced that it would start shooting this movie this year, with a total investment of 150 million. At that time, this caused a huge sensation in the industry. Many people were amazed by Wanhao Pictures' generosity. Many people were happy to watch a good show. They wanted to know what kind of storm this big crocodile would stir up when it entered the Red Sea. However, what was unexpected was that after Wanhao Pictures announced the shooting of Young Pugilistic World, there was no other major news. It became quiet all of a sudden, which made people feel a little confused. Later on, there was some sporadic news that showed that Wanhao Pictures was not joking. They were really going to shoot the movie. However, even their opening ceremony was very low-key, so there were not many media reports. It was the information age now, the era of information explosion. Wanhao Pictures played low-key, so naturally, no one had anything to do to create hype. Even the influence of Young Pugilistic World, which was considered a popular IP, was weakened by a lot. There were even some people in the industry who laughed at Wanhao Pictures behind their backs. They thought that Wanhao Pictures lacked experience and became a spendthrift. Whether Young Pugilistic World could be filmed was a problem, and a lot of money might go down the drain in the end. Similar cases were not rare. Even though the film market was extremely popular now, and many film and television companies were making a lot of money, causing countless investors to bow down to them. That was because they did not see the piles of corpses inside. However, the result was a heavy slap to these people's faces. On the 5th of June, Wanhao Pictures suddenly released the first trailer of Young Pugilistic World on their official Weibo. At the same time, the official Weibo of the movie Young Pugilistic World was also officially launched on Wave's blog. Many famous actors who participated in the filming of the movie reposted the official Weibo at the same time, opening the curtain of publicity at lightning speed. This shocked a lot of people in the industry. Wanhao Pictures had really done a good job in keeping the secret. There wasn't even a bit of news leaked out beforehand. The sudden exposure of such a big piece of news simply caught people off guard. All of a sudden, the movie Young Pugilistic World became a hot topic on blogs and the internet. The official Weibo trailer was reposted in large numbers. Just this trailer alone was undoubtedly a lot of highlights. Whether it was the character designs, the fighting scenes, the special effects, or the background music, they were all quite outstanding. The 2 minutes and 20 seconds video that was meticulously edited had reached the standard that a blockbuster should have. A few famous actors appeared in the trailer, and it instantly attracted a lot of attention from fans. And Wanhao Pictures' sudden move undoubtedly put a lot of pressure on their peers, especially those who were filming and producing the same type of movie. The new school of martial arts movies had been hyped up for a long time. Wanhao Pictures was the first to release the trailer, and from the trailer, it was already very completed. On the 6th of June, Wanhao Pictures' official Weibo once again announced that Young Pugilistic World would officially be released on all the major cinemas in the country on the 15th of July. There would also be a large-scale publicity campaign before the screening, and the surrounding products would also be released on the same day as the screening. Then, a marketing account with over 1 million fans on the blog revealed that the main actor of Young Pugilistic World, Hua Fail, originally had the intention to act in The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, but was rejected by Chinfei Media. In the end, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer skipped the summer slot, and Young Pugilistic World was one step ahead. Once this was exposed, it immediately caused a heated discussion on the internet. Because of this, Hua Fail's fans had a fierce conflict with Lu Chen's fans. Chapter 821. Male idols were considered a unique scene in the domestic entertainment industry. In the beginning, this nickname was given to Japanese and Korean celebrities by fans. It referred to those young, handsome, and muscular male idols. It was a typical internet term. In recent years, as young male idols began to gain popularity, there were many more celebrities of the same type in the domestic entertainment industry. Their characteristics were often very similar. First of all, they were young enough. Those who were over 30 were considered old cured meat. They had fair skin and a fashionable style. Their promotions were extremely strong. Furthermore, they usually did not have any singing skills or acting skills, but they could still become a mess of popularity. When Lu Chen first made his debut, he was once classified as a little fresh meat by some media, but he soon relied on his extraordinary talent and healthy and robust image to become a perfect big star with both idol and strength. As for Hua Fail, he actually debuted later than Lu Chen, but he also became popular very quickly. Hua Fail first signed with a well-known management company, Tai Shi. With the support of Tai Shi, he quickly debuted and starred in a TV series with good ratings. He quickly became popular with his handsome image. As soon as he became popular, Hua Fail fell out with Tai Shi. He was frozen for half a year and fought a sensational lawsuit. Then, he joined another management company, CKG. After signing with CKG, Hua Fail's career went smoothly. He starred in many TV series and even released his own album. He became one of the best male idols and had a large number of fans. Hua Fail's salary was very high. CKG asked for more than $1 million per episode for a TV series and at least $50 million for a movie. There was also a share of the box office. Regardless of whether such a high salary was fake or not, CKG had the confidence to offer such a price. Hua Fail had more than 20 million fans on Waves and had endorsed many international brands. Lu Chen didn't know Hua Fail. He hadn't even seen him before. They didn't have much contact before. However, when Chenfei Media announced that they would be filming The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, CKG's manager came looking for cooperation and recommended Hua Fail. At that time, Chenfei Media was a little interested. After all, Hua Fail's popularity and market value were obvious. His participation would undoubtedly expand the target audience of the movie and increase the box office. However, CKG's offer shocked Lu Shi. It was an unacceptable price, so she could only reject it. As the saying goes, even if the deal doesn't work out, the cooperation doesn't work out either. Chenfei Media and CKG wouldn't fall out with each other because of this. After that, there was no more news. To everyone's surprise, Hua Fail had joined Wanhao Pictures to star in Young Jianghu, and Young Jianghu had launched a promotional campaign against martial arts movies before The Smiling, Proud Wanjianggu. Regardless of whether the marketing account on the blog was instructed by anyone or not, the explosive news inevitably caused the two movies and even the two leading actors to oppose each other. Coupled with a lot of media hype, it quickly became a hot topic on the blog. The first to stir up trouble were Hua Fail's fans. Hua Fail's fans called themselves music fans. Most of them were teenage girls, and most of them were born in the 2000s. Most of them were born in the 90s, and most of them were born in the 90s. Their values in life weren't mature, and they often chased after their idols. As soon as the marketing account revealed the news, some music fans immediately went to Chenfei Media's blog to mock them. They said that Chenfei Media was blind and rejected Hua Fail. Now they were slapped in the face. Of course, Chenfei Media's official blog didn't care about these fans, so they didn't bother to respond. Seeing that Chenfei Media's official blog didn't have any reaction, they were probably very dissatisfied. They immediately summoned a group of allies to support them and flooded the comments section. As a result, Chenfei Media's official blog hasn't spoken yet. Lu Chen's fans became angry after learning about the situation. The Lu family army support group roared over and surrounded these music fans inhumanely. In the past 2 years, Lu Jiejun's fan club, which was led by Lu Chen, was more or less lonely. Other than supporting Lu Chen on a daily basis, they rarely fought with anyone. Now that he had finally encountered something fun, it was as if he could summon hundreds of people and crush the music fans in minutes. Comparing the number of fans and fighting power, the two were really not on the same level. But here came the problem. Most of these music fans were spoiled little girls. They were usually spoiled and loved by their families. They were also praised on the internet. When had they ever been bullied like this? After suffering a loss, they naturally had to find help. They cried and complained everywhere in their QQ group, expanding the online battlefield from the blog to Lu Chen's official Tieba. This time, it was like poking a hornet's nest. Lu Chen had hundreds of millions of fans on Waves and tens of millions of fans on Tieba. Now that someone came looking for trouble, he immediately pulled back. Not only did they have to pull back, but they also had to counterattack. They didn't need to mobilize much. A few large groups of people worked together to destroy Hua Fail's Tieba. The fighting power of Lu Chen's fans was so strong that Hua Fail's official Tieba had to limit the level of the posters and delete a large number of posts. Although the storm was suppressed, it was equivalent to admitting defeat. Hua Fail's fans didn't want to give up, so they went around on the internet, saying that Lu Chen's fans were bullying them by relying on their numbers, and that they were trying to pester Lu Chen. But so far, neither Chenfei Media nor CKG directly participated in it. After all, it was common for fans to fight with each other. Unless it got out of hand, it would be too low for the officials to roll up their sleeves and get involved. As for Hua Fail himself, he didn't say anything. He just kept posting the crew and highlights of Young Pugilistic World on his blog to cooperate with Wanhao Pictures promotion. Compared to Goulet, who had been fighting with Lu Chen before, his attitude was undoubtedly much colder and more arrogant. But the media, who were afraid of chaos, stirred up the fight between the fans of both sides, and also put Hua Fail and Lu Chen, Young Pugilistic World, and The Smiling, Proud Martial Artist, on the opposite side. If Young Pugilistic World was a great success and won a considerable box office, did it mean that the smiling, proud martial artist had won the crown? Then did Hua Fail, who had been rejected by Chin Fei Media, complete a beautiful counterattack. The emergence of this kind of public opinion made Lucy, who has always been very concerned about online publicity, pay attention to it, so she made this phone call to Lu Chen. If you didn't occupy the position of the public opinion, you would be waiting to be occupied by your opponent. Lu Shi knew this very well. Chapter 8:22. Compared to Lu Shi's anxiety, Lu Chen was much calmer. Chin Fei Media had developed to this day, and the success or failure of a movie was not enough to shake its foundation. He had the status and reputation he had now, and not many opponents could shake him. The first movie of the smiling, proud wanderer was of course very important. Its box office would directly affect the profits of the next two movies. It was also the first battle of Lu Chen's great wuxia IP plan, and he could only succeed. But Lu Chen didn't think that Young Pugilistic World would be a big threat to the smiling, proud wanderer. Even if the former had a big box office, it would only steal the limelight of the wuxia movies. Most importantly, no matter how good the trailer was, no matter how popular the online promotion was, the box office was ultimately contributed by the audience, and it was the audience's reputation that determined the box office. On this point, Lu Chen had absolute confidence in the smiling, proud wanderer. In order to prepare for this new wuxia movie, he painstakingly built the Lu family troupe, spent 2 years preparing, invested a huge amount of money to build a special effects team, and even made a talent show to find talents. Young Pugilistic World, or Wanhao Pictures, which invested in this movie, were rich and powerful, but how could they be more prepared than Chin Fei Media? What's more, the trend of new wuxia was brought by Lu Chen. As for the shooting of wuxia movies, he not only had rich memories in the dream world to use, but also had his own unique understanding and ideas. Lu Chen didn't doubt the ability of Wanhao Pictures, and he also believed that this opponent could make a decent blockbuster. But wuxia movies, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Sister, the smiling, proud wanderer will be finished in 2 months. Including the post-production, we can't release it until the National Day at the earliest. We don't have a direct conflict with them, so let's not get involved. Let Brother Fei appease the fans. We should have a high enough position. There's no need to make a fuss. If they do well in the box office, it's actually good for us. We don't need to fight for this reputation." Regardless of whether it was the entertainment industry or the film industry, they were all circles of fame and fortune, right and wrong. Open and secret fights were everywhere. Now that Wanhao Pictures had made such a big fuss, it was nothing more than fighting for fame and fortune, and trampling on Chin Fei Media along the way. Lu Chen had no intention of stirring up a dispute at this time. The filming of the smiling, proud wanderer was at a critical stage. It was not worth it to be distracted by this kind of thing. Perhaps the other party was eager for him to take the field himself. Under Lu Chen's persuasion, Lu Shi quickly calmed down. She realized that Lu Chen's words were very reasonable. "All right then, I'll discuss it with Li Feiyu and try to deal with it as coldly as possible." Li Feiyu was the only friend Lu Chen met during his time in Beijing. It could be said that the change in Lu Chen's fate had a certain relationship with him. Since Lu Chen became famous and started his career, he had not forgotten this friend. In the beginning, Li Feiyu served as Lu Chen's assistant and helped with the live broadcast. Later, he was responsible for the public relations and marketing of the studio. Now he was the director of the online publicity department of Chin Fei Media. He was responsible for managing matters related to fans, such as Lu Jiejun Support Fan Group, Official Tieba, Forum, QQ Group and so on. Lu Chen said, "Well, find another media to arrange an interview for me. We'll also make some noise." Lu Shi agreed. He ended the call with Lu Shi. Chin Fei, and Mu Xiaochu walked over hand in hand. Chin Fei, asked, "What happened? Why did you call for so long?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "Sister called. It's nothing big. Let's go back and talk. It's too windy here." It really wasn't a big deal. Lu Chen set the tone to deal with the situation. On the other side, under the arrangement of Lu Shi, Chenfei Media quickly appeased most of the fans through the support group and did not continue to make the matter bigger. In the words of Li Feiyu in the official group, it was that Lu Jiejun should have a high profile and not fight with others. Lu Chen's fans were also mainly young people, but compared to those teenage girls, they were undoubtedly more rational and mature, so everyone was quite cooperative. Of course, a small number of fans did not listen, but after all, they could not cause much trouble. As for Wanhao Pictures and Huafei, they did not make a big deal out of it. After all, there were too many fans of Lu Chen. If they really offended all of them, then they would boycott the release of Young Martial World. It would not be worth it. However, some of Huafei's fans saw that Lu Jiejun had given up, so they felt proud and thought that they had won. The only ones who were disappointed were the media who wanted to see the world in chaos, and a small number of people in the industry who liked to watch the fun. On June 10, Lu Chen accepted an interview with Film Express on the temporary set of Huashan. Film Express was one of the few professional film newspapers in China. It had been published for nearly 30 years and had a great influence among film fans. It had launched its own website a few years ago, and the official V of Waves blog had more than 5 million fans. Since The Smiling, The Proud Martial World started shooting, the crew refused to be interviewed by the media. The shooting had always been in a state of secrecy, and there had been no important news for a few months. This time, Film Express was contacted by Chenfei Media, and immediately sent their best people to Huashan, trying to dig out the relevant first-hand information about The Smiling, The Proud Martial World. At present, the martial arts movies were very popular. At least 3 movies of the same genre were released during the summer. People in and out of the industry were very concerned about it, especially The Smiling, The Proud Martial World. On June 12, Film Express published the full interview with Lu Chen on its latest issue and website, which immediately attracted the attention of many people in the industry and other media. However, to their disappointment, Film Express did not have any eye-catching news. Lu Chen and the crew of The Smiling, The Proud Martial World were very low-key. They only said that the shooting was very smooth, and that they could basically guarantee that the movie would be released during the National Day. As for Young Man in Pugilistic World and other competitors, Lu Chen did not comment on them because he did not know them well, and he did not care that the honor of the first new martial arts movie was taken away. Compared with the bold words released by Lu Chen at the opening ceremony, people in the industry soon said that the shooting of The Smiling, The Proud Martial World might have encountered a lot of problems. Under the strong competition of Young Man in Pugilistic World, he was not very confident, and he might fail in this movie. Regarding this saying, neither Lu Chen nor Chenfei Media paid attention to it. No matter what the outside world said, they always kept silent. Chapter 823. Chenfei Media had only been established for less than 2 years. Even with the addition of its predecessor, Lu Chen Studio, it had not been more than 4 years in the entertainment industry. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a new recruit in the industry. However, it was precisely this new recruit who, under the leadership of Lu Chen, had created a series of dazzling achievements in the entertainment industry, and had attacked in many directions, showing the powerful momentum of a future big media. Chenfei Media was a company owned by Lu Chen and Chenfei. It was a typical husband and wife business. Because it was not a listed company, there was no obligation to disclose its performance to the public. How much money it had made, apart from the relevant people inside the company, perhaps only the national tax authorities would know. There were also many speculations about the profitability of Chenfei Media. One of the more authoritative inferences was that in just last year, Chenfei Media's profit was at least between 400 million and 500 million. This level of profitability had crushed more than half of the listed companies. Many large companies with tens of thousands of employees did not earn as much as Chenfei Media. There were also professional organizations that had evaluated the brand appeal of Lu Chen and believed that Lu Chen's commercial value was about 5 billion, ranking first in the Chinese entertainment industry. Although Chen Fei Media and Lu Chen himself did not respond to these speculations and assessments, in the eyes of many people in the industry, there was no doubt that Lu Chen's ability to make money was strong. He had made so much money and was worth so much money. It was impossible for no one to be jealous of him. However, Lu Chen had never had any black marks on him. Not long after his debut, he fell in love with Chen Fei. The relationship between the two was very stable and they became the model couple in the entertainment industry that everyone envied. Lu Chen's works, whether it was music or film, were all original. He did not plagiarize or follow the trend. He always led the trend. His talent was outstanding and unparalleled. Even if the haters wanted to criticize him, they could not find anything. Most importantly, although he made a lot of money, he never flaunted it. He also invested a huge amount of money to set up Chen Fei Charity Foundation and helped many sick children. How could they criticize him? In addition, within the circle, Lu Chen's personality was also well known for being modest and magnanimous. He never acted like a big shot, never put on airs, and never spoke ill of people on his blog, even if the other party was deliberately creating trouble to gain popularity. This kind of Lu Chen really made his opponents feel despair. This time, the strong competition between Wanhao Pictures and Chen Fei Media in the movie industry finally allowed people to catch something. Hence, under the situation where Chen Fei Media continued to remain silent and did not launch a counterattack against Young Pugilistic World, many people became excited and active. Some media outlets were paid, some media outlets were trying to get attention, and some media outlets just didn't like it. Plus, some people were secretly adding fuel to the fire. There was a wave of people belittling the smiling, proud wanderer in the circle. The smiling, proud wanderer has been delayed. It will not be released in the summer. Insider information: the crew of the smiling, proud wanderer is having a conflict with the director. According to the current information, the smiling, the proud swordsman might miss the National Day slot. The smiling, proud wanderer is facing difficulties in production due to the high difficulty of production. Several big web portals had a cooperative relationship with Chen Fei Media. There was no negative news about Chen Fei Media and the crew of the smiling, proud wanderer, but many other small and medium media, especially self-media, were much more unscrupulous. As the promotion of Young Pugilistic World became more and more aggressive, there was more and more negative news about the smiling, proud wanderer, which was forwarded to blogs, forums, and QQ groups. To those who didn't know the truth, it was easy to have the illusion that the upcoming Young Pugilistic World was the real masterpiece of the new martial arts movie. Everyone knew that Wanhao Pictures was definitely behind the scenes. They were never stingy with their funds on promotion. For the box office of this blockbuster movie, it was normal for them to carry out a series of operations. But others could not get anything to use against Wanhao Pictures, because Wanhao Pictures had never purposely targeted anyone with their publicity for Young World's adventures in the pugilistic world. They boasted about themselves and did not belittle their opponents. They used open and above-board tactics. With two lines working together, one in the open and the other in the dark, it was easy to imagine the momentum created. Young Pugilistic World became extremely popular and became the new representative of domestic movies. No matter how much publicity Wanhao Pictures gave, Chen Fei Media just stood by and watched. No matter how hard it was, they didn't do anything. They basically didn't do any publicity for the smiling, the proud wanderer. They only released a few stills occasionally. All of a sudden, Young Pugilistic World had the feeling of being the only one to lose in the promotion of the summer movie. Even the two American blockbusters that were also going to be released during the summer were at a disadvantage. However, Chen Fei Media had their own reasons for not fighting back. Because the smiling, proud wanderer was scheduled to be released during the National Day slot. There was no schedule conflict with Young Pugilistic World, and there was no direct competition, so they could completely put on a high profile. But Young Pugilistic World was not the only domestic martial arts movie that was released during the summer. Just as Young Pugilistic World became popular on the internet, Goulet, who had almost disappeared a while ago, suddenly jumped out and ridiculed Hua Fail on his personal blog. This time, Goulet must have changed a publicity planner. His blog post was quite interesting. Although everyone knew that he was ridiculing Huafei's name wasn't in the blog post, but it was full of ridicule. Goulet did have a reason to mock Huafei, because he was a hardcore action star. It was very suitable for him to act in a martial arts film. However, if a sissy were to act as a heroic hero, wouldn't it be hilarious? As soon as Goulet started to ridicule Huafei, it immediately attracted a lot of gunfire. The fans of Huafei who were provoked by his blog post immediately exploded and swarmed over to fight back. This was exactly what Goulet wanted. He continuously posted 3 tough blog posts to strengthen his firepower. At the same time, he didn't forget to promote the new 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous, which was released 1 week later than Young Pugilistic World. Some people said that in the entertainment industry, one had to be thick-skinned and black-hearted enough. Goulet was undoubtedly one of the best. Everyone knew that he was trying to get attention, but it was really admirable for him to be so fearless and try to get attention. In the end, Huafei couldn't stay calm anymore. He personally went on stage and ridiculed Goulet. It wasn't over yet. While the two sides were fighting fiercely, another martial arts movie, Pugilistic World Wanderer, which was also released during the summer, joined in. Someone commented, "Jiang Hu is in chaos." Chapter 8:24. The world was bustling for profits, and the world was bustling for profits. To put it bluntly, the chaos in the domestic film market was actually a battle for profits. It was a fierce competition for a share of a big cake with tens of billions of yuan in the box office. Everyone wanted to grab the biggest and sweetest piece. In this competition, the smiling, the proud wanderer was reduced to an inconspicuous supporting role. Everyone's attention was attracted by young Jianghu, the 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous, and Jianghu Wanderer. Wanhao Pictures, Land Pictures, and Crown Pictures, which produced Jianghu Wanderer, were all well-known big companies in the industry, and their strength could be said to be equal. The leading actors of the 3 movies, Huafei, Goulet, and Lin Luo, were all outstanding young actors. Who would win undoubtedly became a hot topic. After Young Pugilistic World, the new 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous, and Pugilistic World Wanderer also released trailers. The special effects were not much inferior to the former. Coupled with the hype, people could not help but smell the smoke of the upcoming summer. Young Jianghu was set to be released on July 5th, the 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous on July 12th, and Jianghu Wanderer on July 15th. A fierce battle had already begun. This situation inevitably made many people worry about Chunfei Media. Because the smiling, the proud wanderer was delayed to the National Day, it completely lost the advantage of 2 months later, and the box office prospects were worrying. The reason was very simple. For the popular new martial arts movies, they must have a great sense of novelty and curiosity, and would certainly be willing to pay to go to the cinema to watch the fun. But after watching a few movies, it was easy to be tired of the same kind of movies. Of course, with the popularity of Lu Qin, Chen Fei, Lu Gangsheng, and Tan Hong, the box office of the smiling, the proud wanderer would certainly not be low, and it would be difficult for Chunfei Media to lose money. But to realize Lu Chen's words at the opening ceremony, it was hard to say. Many people in the industry thought that it was the biggest mistake of the smiling, the proud wanderer to miss the summer. The original advantage was given to the opponent, and the loss caused by the delay was at least hundreds of millions of yuan. This movie was very likely to let Lu Chen get rid of the aura of invincibility. Chunfei Media's recent low profile seemed to prove this. There have been a lot of negative comments in the media recently. In the general manager's office at the headquarters of Chunfei Media in the capital, Lu Shi threw an invitation in front of Lu Chen and said, "It's time for us to take action. We can't just be passively beaten." A few days ago, the first song of the smiling, the proud wanderer, Sword of Mount Hua, had finished shooting in Ningxian Film and Television City and entered the post-production stage. Lu Chen and several main members of the crew returned to the capital first. However, the production team would not be disbanded. Instead, they would further expand the size of the crew. This was because the filming for the next 2 films would continue and was expected to be completed by the end of the year. During this period of time, Chunfei Media really kept a low profile in terms of publicity. Even the news of the completion of Sword of Mount Hua was only announced on their official Weibo. They didn't even invite media reporters to interview them. The media never stopped criticizing the smiling, proud wanderer. The reasons were complicated. Some of them were caused by their opponents, some of them were just trying to gain popularity. Of course, it was also because Chunfei Media didn't spend any money. Most of the media's moral integrity was actually to sell to whoever offered the highest price. It would be strange if Chunfei Media didn't spend money, but their opponents spent money. Although Chunfei Media also paid a lot of attention to media publicity and public relations, and the budget was very high, it was inevitable that there would be some negative effects due to the recent shrinking of their publicity strategy. In this regard, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Don't worry. The summer period has just begun. It won't be too late for us to take action after their films are released. It's more powerful to take back our fists and punch them out." The concept of the summer period originated from the United States. It referred to the film schedule from June 1st to August 31st every year. The main audience was the student audience aged 4 to 24. Major film companies usually paid special attention to the film schedule in June and July to compete for this huge market share. Originally, in China, the summer period had always been regarded as the off-season of the box office and was not taken seriously. However, with the increasing prosperity of the domestic film market, the value of the summer period was highlighted and became a place that must be fought for. However, the domestic summer period started at the end of June. July was the prime time and August was the end of the period. Young Man in Pugilistic World, The New 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous, and The Wanderer of Pugilistic World were all released in the prime time in July. This situation was relatively rare in the past. The competition was bound to be very fierce. Seeing Lu Chen's calmness, Lu Shi couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. The emperor is not anxious, but the eunuch is anxious. Because Lu Chen had set the tone for the smiling, proud wanderer early on, Chunfei Media also had a hard time enduring the waves of publicity from their opponents. There were some people who didn't understand and complained internally, feeling that they were being looked down upon by others. Lu Chen laughed and didn't explain much. He picked up the invitation on the table curiously. This invitation was from Wanhao Pictures. The premiere of Young Man in Pugilistic World would be held in Wanhao World Studios 5 days later, which was July 2nd. They invited Lu Chen to attend. Lu Chen already knew about the premiere of Young Man in Pugilistic World because Wanhao Pictures had been announcing it for a long time and made it very grand. This premiere would also be the opening ceremony of Wanhao World Studios. To a certain extent, it showed Wanhao Pictures' ambition to vigorously expand the film industry and move towards the road of pan-entertainment. Therefore, for this premiere, Wanhao Pictures also sent out invitations and invited famous people from all walks of life. "Faye and I will also get one," Lu Shi asked. "I'm definitely going. Are you two going?" Although there was a direct competition between Wanhao Pictures and Chunfei Media, in the business world, as long as they didn't fall out with each other, they still had to give some face. Otherwise, they wouldn't give a good impression. As the general manager of Chunfei Media, Lu Shi received the invitation and attended in person was a courtesy and also a kind of business respect. However, it didn't matter whether Lu Chen and Chunfei went or not. According to Lu Shi, it was better for them not to go. Anyway, it was easy to find a reason and they weren't afraid of what others would say. If they really went, it would be giving the other party a chance to hype up, and it would be considered as funding the enemy. Go, why not? Lu Chen raised his eyebrows, patted the invitation in his hand, and said with a faint smile, "It's good to go and watch the show." Chapter 825. July 2nd, Wanhao New World. Wanhao Xintiandi was a new commercial city that Wanhao Group had just completed in Beijing's 4th Ring Road. It was also the third large-scale shopping mall of this powerful real estate developer in Beijing. In recent years, the Hopska urban complex, which integrated commerce, residence, entertainment, and consumption, could be said to be blossoming everywhere in the country. Many real estate companies have been fighting for territory in major cities to build top-notch shopping centers. Marriott World Cinema was one of the most important parts of Marriott New World. This new cinema had 18 screening halls, among which the IMAX giant screen hall could accommodate 1,200 audiences at the same time. Its scale was one of the largest in the country, and its various facilities were also the most advanced. The premiere of Young Pugilistic World was held at Wanhao World Cinema. Night had just fallen, but the plaza in front of Marriott New World was already bustling with noise and excitement. Dozens of balloons with long banners hung in the air, and under the rainbow arches, there was a red carpet that was tens of meters long leading to the entrance of Silver City. The huge electronic display screen and the celebrity signature wall had already been set up. Many staff members were busy completing the final preparations. The lights set up at the scene were lit up, and a few beams of light shot into the sky. Many reporters had arrived at the scene in advance and even set up cameras. Such a scene attracted many ordinary citizens who came to watch the fun, but they were all blocked by security personnel in the safe area. It was just past 6:00, and the trailer for Young World was displayed on the giant LED screen. Passionate music filled the square, and people from all walks of life appeared one after another. In order for Young Pugilistic World, a martial arts blockbuster with an investment of 150 million yuan, to become a hit in the summer, Wanhao Pictures spared no effort in publicity. Dozens of celebrities and famous people in the industry were invited to attend the premiere. This did not include the actors and directors of the film crew. When Lu Chen, Chen Feier, and Lu Shi passed the security check in a Mercedes-Benz and arrived at the scene, there were at least tens of thousands of people gathered there. Both sides of the long red carpet were lined with reporters, and the flashes of cameras were flashing one after another. "It's so lively." Chen Feier saw the scene outside through the car window. She was quite surprised. The premiere is almost like a movie award ceremony. It was rare to see a premiere of such a scale in the country. It was all thanks to Wanhao Pictures' wealth. Lu Shi smiled and said, "I heard that they are going to spend 100 million yuan on publicity, and the target box office earnings is at least 1 billion yuan. The investment budget for Young Pugilistic World was 150 million, and spending 100 million on publicity was not an exaggeration. Just the premiere alone would cost at least 10 to 20 million, and the total cost would be 250 to 300 million. According to the share of the domestic box office, if the production cost was 300 million, then a box office of 1 billion would guarantee a minimum profit." However, Wanhao Pictures was definitely more ambitious. The black Mercedes-Benz S500 stopped steadily at the beginning of the red carpet. The reporters' cameras immediately turned around, ready to take first-hand photos. Many of the stars who had appeared in front of them had already attracted a lot of attention. Every Mercedes-Benz that came was like a small treasure chest. After opening it, there might be unexpected surprises. Although these reporters had received red packets, their professionalism was still very high. The more they stirred up, the more attention they would get from their own media. Which star or director are those who just came over? Apart from the reporters, there were also countless onlookers at the scene. The live broadcast was played on the LED screen in real time, attracting most people's curious gazes. Under everyone's gaze, the uniformed usher opened the car door. A tall and handsome young man got out of the car with a faint smile on his face. Lu Chen. The reporters recognized him in an instant. They subconsciously pressed the shutter, and the flashes intertwined. Taking photos was their instinct. In fact, these reporters were very surprised. They had never thought that Lu Chen would actually attend the premiere of Young Pugilistic World. It was normal for Wanhao Pictures to send an invitation to Lu Chen, but it was surprising that Lu Chen was invited. One should know that the promotion of Young Pugilistic World was very vigorous. Although it did not directly target the smiling, the proud martial artist, everyone in the industry could see the intention of Wanhao Pictures. Although Young Pugilistic World and the smiling, the proud martial artist were not released at the same time, and there was no direct competition between them. However, Wanhao Pictures obviously wanted to snatch the flag of the new school of martial arts movies and plant it firmly in front of their own door. To get such glory, they had to step on the smiling, the proud martial artist. As the one being challenged, it was impossible for Lu Chen not to know that he came to the premiere of Young Pugilistic World. Did he have an ulterior motive, or was he really being generous? The reporters' brains were working fast, and the SLR cameras in their hands were still clicking non-stop. Lu Chen got out of the car, but he did not immediately step on the red carpet. He turned around and brought out his companion in a gentlemanly manner. Chen Fei, The reporters were a little crazy, and the speed of pressing the shutter doubled. The most popular couple in the entertainment industry, the male and female leads of The Smiling, the Proud Martial Artist, came together. If they were put on the website, they could almost be the entertainment headlines. Lu Chen. Chen Fei, There were many fans of the two in the crowd. Seeing that their idols actually came, they immediately shouted loudly, and even tried to push forward, which made the security guards who were waiting for them feel like they were facing a formidable enemy. The security guards were also having a hard time. There were many celebrities who had walked the red carpet before them, but they did not see them being very excited. But now they finally saw what was called the power of the crowd. Lu Chen and Chen Fei held hands, and waved to the excited fans. Their images appeared on the big screen, and were also captured by countless cameras and mobile phones. The same scene was already familiar to people, and it was believed that it would appear frequently in the future. The organizers of the premiere would definitely feel embarrassed, because all the glory was taken away by the two who had just appeared. It gave people the feeling that it was not the premiere of Young Pugilistic World, but the premiere of The Smiling, the Proud Martial Artist. If they had known this, they would not have sent invitations to Lu Chen and Chen Fei. It was like shooting themselves in the foot. The two attracted so much attention that Lu Shi, who got out of the car after them, did not pay much attention to them. But not only did Lu Shi not care about it at all, but she was secretly laughing. They were not here to support, it was almost like they were here to ruin the show. It was so embarrassing. Her sister was happily thinking, the show is about to begin. Chapter 826. Amidst the cheers and the cameras of over 100 reporters, Lu Chen, Chen Fei, and Lu Shi walked down the long red carpet and arrived in front of the signature wall. Welcome, welcome. A middle-aged man in a navy blue suit walked up and extended his hand to Lu Chen with a warm smile. Mr. Lu Chen, Ms. Chen Fei, General Manager Lu, it's our honor to have the three of you here. This is General Manager Lu Xingda of Wanhao Pictures. Lu Shi, who was beside Lu Chen, was afraid that he didn't know the identity of the other party, so she reminded him in a low voice. Lu Chen's expression changed. He immediately extended his hand and shook his hand. He smiled and said, "Nice to meet you, General Manager Lu. We should be the ones thanking you for your kind invitation and giving us the opportunity to visit and learn." Lu Chen had long heard of this General Manager Lu of Wanhao Pictures. It was said that he was strong-willed and resourceful. Under his control, Wanhao Pictures, which had just been established for a few years, had developed rapidly. Coupled with the support of Wanhao Group, the scale and strength of the company could be compared to a few established companies in the industry, becoming a new tycoon. It was his first time seeing him in person. This General Manager Lu of Wanhao Pictures had thick eyebrows and big eyes. He was handsome, had a loud voice, and had a heroic temperament. If he was in a movie, he would definitely be the main character. Lu Xingda had acted in movies before, but he didn't make it big. Later on, he became a manager and opened his own company. Then, he walked step by step to where he was today. He could be considered a legendary figure in the industry. Let's learn together. Lu Xingda laughed. He shook Lu Chen's hand and said, "We want to learn from you." The flashes in the surroundings were incessant. Many cameras pointed at Lu Chen and Lu Xingda at the same time, capturing the scene of the two shaking hands and laughing. Those who didn't know would definitely think that the two of them had a good friendship. In fact, not only were they meeting for the first time, they were also competitors. Lu Xingda shook hands with Chen Feier and Lu Shi respectively, politely and enthusiastically expressing his welcome. Then, he personally led the three of them to sign on the signature wall. As soon as Lu Chen signed his name and stepped off the stage, a large group of reporters immediately surrounded him, scrambling to hold up microphones to him. The colorful logos of different media outlets almost blocked his face. Lu Chen. Mr. Lu Chen. Teacher Lu, they shouted and raised different questions at the same time, and desperately came forward to fight for a good seat. If it weren't for the timely obstruction of the security personnel on the scene, it was estimated that Lu Chen would have been drowned. This scene made the corner of Lu Xingda's eyes twitch, and he almost couldn't maintain the smile on his face. Previously, when the cast of Young Pugilistic World made their appearance, they didn't see these reporters who had given them big red packets to be so excited. It was as if Lu Chen was the real protagonist of this premiere. Mr. Lu Chen, may I ask why you are here for the premiere of Young Pugilistic World? This question was very straightforward, and it could be said that it was not subtle at all, but it undoubtedly spoke out the question in the hearts of many reporters present. They were really surprised. Lu Chen said in surprise, I am here for the premiere of Young Pugilistic World, of course, because of Wanhao Pictures and Boss Lu's kind invitation. Is there a problem? The reporter who asked the question was stunned, and didn't know how to answer. But soon, someone else added, Young Pugilistic World is a competitor of the smiling, proud Pugilistic World. Is there a special reason why you are here to support Young Pugilistic World? Reporters, especially entertainment reporters, were very bold. In order to get hot news, they dared to ask any question. They didn't care if the interviewee felt embarrassed, and even deliberately set traps. Therefore, experienced celebrities knew how to answer or avoid these questions. Lu Chen had been in the entertainment industry for 3 or 4 years, and he had been sharpened by countless reporters. He said with a smile, how could Young Pugilistic World be a competitor of the smiling, proud Pugilistic World? The smiling, proud Pugilistic World is scheduled for the National Day, and it is still 3 months away. His answer made many reporters laugh. It sounded like Young Pugilistic World was not a competitor of the smiling, proud Pugilistic World, but the latter explanation was reasonable and impeccable. He also slapped the reporter who asked the question in the face. How could it be a competitor of the smiling, proud Pugilistic World? The question was too stupid. The reporters couldn't help but look at each other. Someone else asked, then is the smiling, proud Pugilistic World sure to be screened on the National Day? Lu Chen nodded, of course it's not a problem. He glanced at Lu Xingda, whose face was a bit dark, and said with a smile, everyone, can you please stop asking about the smiling, proud Pugilistic World? Today we are here to watch Young Pugilistic World. I really hope this masterpiece of Wanhao Pictures can open up the market of martial arts movies and lead the new trend of our domestic movies. The reporter just now couldn't help but look embarrassed. He also took the red packet from Wanhao Pictures, but in the end, he didn't talk about the main topic and started to promote for Lu Chen. On the contrary, Lu Chen pulled the topic back and praised Young Pugilistic World. Who could say that he was wrong? After dealing with these questions, Lu Chen pulled Chen Fei into the cinema. The premiere was held in Hall 1, which could accommodate 1,200 spectators. This hall had not been officially opened to the public yet. All the equipment and facilities were the latest, especially the giant screen, which was claimed to be the best in Asia, which gave people a very shocking feeling. There were already a lot of people sitting in the hall, and the scene was very well decorated. The seats of Lu Chen and the other two were arranged in the middle of the third row, which was the real VIP treatment. After sitting down, Lu Shi asked softly, you praised them so much just now, aren't you afraid of hurting your own feet? Previously, Lu Chen had praised Wanhao Pictures and Young Pugilistic World. What he said would definitely be published on the internet media as soon as possible, which was equivalent to helping Wanhao Pictures promote for free. Lu Chen smiled but didn't say anything. If Young Pugilistic World was really good and outstanding, then it wouldn't matter whether he praised it or not. But if the result was the opposite, then the higher he praised it now, the harder he would fall in the future. Lu Chen didn't like to scheme against others, and he was used to crushing his opponents fair and square. But this didn't mean that he wouldn't give them a taste of their own medicine. At 7:30 at night, the lights in the hall dimmed, and the giant screen showed the beginning of the movie. The premiere of Young Pugilistic World had officially begun. Chapter 8:27. Young Pugilistic World had a big highlight in terms of publicity, and that was that during the filming process, they used the latest digital giant screen technology, abandoning the shortcoming of using special film to film the previous giant screen movies. Coupled with the investment of integrated IMAX equipment throughout the entire process, the viewing effect reached the world's first-class standards. Of course, this martial arts blockbuster invested by Wanhao Pictures was divided into two versions to meet the viewing needs of different audiences, and the premiere was naturally the giant screen version. The length of the film reached 110 minutes, nearly 2 hours. During the process of the film playing, there was applause from the audience from time to time, and there were exclamations. More than 1,000 audiences and media reporters seemed to have been conquered by this giant film. When the film was over, there was a warm applause from the audience, the lights slowly lit up, countless colored foil fell from the sky, and all the crew members who participated in the premiere went on the stage, making the atmosphere in the cinema reach its climax. Lu Chen didn't continue to sit and watch the excitement, but together with Chen Fei, and Lu Shi, they politely said goodbye to Lu Xingda, the head of Wanhao Pictures, expressing their regret that they couldn't attend the celebration party later. Lu Xingda was in a very good mood, and he couldn't hide the pride on his face. He said a few polite words and didn't ask Lu Chen and the other two to stay. His attention had obviously flown away. Leaving the noisy cinema, Lu Chen took a long breath of fresh air outside, and his mind was a lot clearer. The Mercedes-Benz driven by Zhang Xiaofang was already waiting in the driveway. Lu Chen was just about to open the door to let his girlfriend and sister get in first when several people suddenly jumped out from the side. A microphone was handed to Lu Chen as quickly as possible. "Hello, Lu Chen, I'm a reporter from QQ Entertainment. Can I ask you a few questions?" Lu Chen was speechless. He really admired this reporter. Other colleagues were watching the film in the cinema for interviews, but she actually brought people to squat outside, and most likely, she was waiting for him. If it was another reporter, Lu Chen might not be willing to pay attention, but Chinfei Media and QQ have always had a good cooperative relationship, so he turned around and said, "Yes, but only 3 questions." The female reporter of QQ Entertainment was obviously a very smart and capable kind. She had undoubtedly thought about the question long ago. After getting Lu Chen's approval, she asked without hesitation, "After watching Young Jianghu, what's your judgment on this movie?" This question was really hard to answer. Although Lu Chen had praised Wanhao Pictures and Young Man in the Pugilistic World once, that was before watching the movie. No matter how many good words he said, they could only be considered polite words. Now that the premiere was over, Lu Chen was quite sensitive to the judgment of Young Pugilistic World. No matter what he said, it would be easy for others to gossip about him. Lu Chen thought for a moment and replied, "I'm an actor now. I watch movies from a professional point of view. Personally, I think Young Jianghu is good, but the audience has to judge for themselves." The concise and standard diplomatic language made the female reporter's teeth ache. She asked, "Do you really think Young Jianghu is very good?" This question, Lu Chen nodded. "The picture is exquisite, and the giant screen effect is excellent." "Really praise?" The female reporter's eyes lit up and she asked, "So will you recommend your friends to watch this movie? Just tell me, how much money did you receive from Wanhao Pictures?" Lu Chen glanced at her and said with a smile, "I never recommend movies to my friends." This time, it was the female reporter's turn to be speechless, a waste of a question. She didn't give up and asked, "So, I've answered 3 questions. I still have something to do." Lu Chen didn't want to continue arguing with her. He quickly got into the Mercedes-Benz and said, "Goodbye." The experienced Zhang Xiaofang immediately started the engine, stepped on the accelerator and drove away, leaving the others looking at each other. The female reporter stomped her feet in anger, but there was nothing she could do. Lu Chen was also very helpless. He sat in the car and said with lingering fear, "Reporters nowadays are getting more and more difficult to deal with." Just now, Lu Chen was really shocked. The other party's sudden appearance almost made him beat him up. Fortunately, he realized something was wrong in time and controlled himself. Otherwise, tomorrow's headlines would definitely be his. Lu Chen beats up a reporter at the entrance of Wanhouse Cinema. Just thinking about this title made him drunk. Chen Fei pursed his lips and smiled. "You only know now. I wanted to remind you just now." Lu Chen smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Lu," she asked, "do you really think Young Adventures in Pugilistic World is very good?" The reporter had already asked this question once, but Lu Shi wanted to hear the truth. Her sister always felt that Lu Chen was hiding something bad. If she didn't figure it out, she wouldn't be able to sleep well at night. Lu Chen asked with a smile, "What do you think? Or, what do you think of this movie?" Lu Shi thought for a moment and said, "You're right. The picture is exquisite, the giant screen effect is excellent, and the special effects of several fighting scenes are done well, but," her sister frowned and said, "apart from these, it doesn't feel much different from other special effects films, and the whole story is quite awkward. After watching it, I don't have a very special impression." Lu Shi evaluated the movie from the perspective of an audience. Of course, her opinion was certainly very subjective and didn't have general value. Lu Chen looked at Chen Fei, "What about you?" Chen Fei, hee hee. On the evening of July 2nd, the premiere of Young Adventures in Pugilistic World was held in the newly built Wanhouse Studios. That night, many media published relevant news, and several online media also broadcast the scene live. By the next day, the promotion of the movie reached an unprecedented level. In blogs, forums, Tiba, QQ groups and other places, the relevant recommendation articles were almost like cowhide moss. Many media people, film critics and star artists who attended the premiere all gave Young Adventures in Pugilistic World a very high evaluation, which also made Young Adventures in Pugilistic World famous, attracting the attention of countless people. And before that, the movie ticket pre-sale for Young Adventures in Pugilistic World had already begun. Taking advantage of this wave of popularity, the pre-sale results climbed steadily, and the opening screening was bound to have a very high box office, basically locking in the weekly champion. Young Adventures in Pugilistic World director, main actors, and the senior management of Wanhao Pictures, including Lu Xingda, all expressed their determination and confidence to break the box office record of domestic movies on different occasions. The box office was predicted to be 2 billion or even higher. All the glory of the so-called new martial arts movie seemed to have been taken away by Young Adventures in Pugilistic World overnight, and even its competitors didn't dare to challenge it lightly. On July 5th, Young Adventures in Pugilistic World was released in major cinemas across the country. The first day's screening rate was 42.75%. Chapter 828. Yao Yao, are you done? Su Kai lowered his head and looked at the phone in his hand. The screen that had just lit up showed that it was 6:27. He couldn't suppress the anxiety in his heart, so he urged her to go to the bathroom again. His girlfriend, Kuyao, was in the bathroom freshening up. She hadn't come out for more than half an hour. Although he had long been used to hiding in the bathroom to dress up for a long time, he really couldn't stand it tonight, because the movie was going to start in an hour. Why are you in such a hurry? Kuyao poked her head out of the bathroom, holding a lipstick in her hand. She said angrily, "Isn't it still very early? I haven't even finished applying my lipstick yet." Su Kai pointed at the phone with a bitter smile and said, "There's only 1 hour left. It's night time now, and the road is very congested. If we don't leave now, I'm afraid we'll be late." "If we're late, then we'll be late." Kuyao didn't care at all. "What's so good about this kind of fighting and killing movie? I want to watch Left and Right Love that has just been released. I don't like martial arts movies." Su Kai raised his hands in surrender. All right, I'll wait for you. Su Kai was a standard IT man. After graduating from university, he had worked in the deep sea for almost 10 years. It wasn't easy for him to find the girlfriend he liked. Naturally, he would give in to Kuyao if he could. He didn't want to live the life of a single dog anymore. Fortunately, Kuyao wasn't an unreasonable person. She spent another 10 minutes to solve the problem. She followed the restless Su Kai out of their small home and drove to the cinema. When Su Kai was single in the past, he was usually very busy with work, so he had very few entertainment activities. The only long-term hobby that he kept was probably reading online novels, because reading novels on his phone could make full use of his spare time. He also liked the new school of martial arts novels that had just become popular in the past few years. The martial arts novels that were more inclined to the real world were more durable than ordinary online novels. There wasn't too much fantasy and exaggeration, so it was more suitable for an old bookworm like him. On the bookshelf in Su Kai's small study, there were 5 or 6 sets of martial arts novels, such as The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, Young Jianghu, and so on. Among these wuxia novels, Su Kai's favorite was The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. This novel was the pioneer of the new school of wuxia, and it occupied the first place in his heart. Even The Legend of the Condor Heroes, which was now more famous than The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, could not be shaken. Su Kai had read the few wuxia novels several times, and The Smiling, Proud Wanderer had read it at least 5 times. He had long been looking forward to this book being adapted into a movie or TV series. He had read these several martial arts novels, and The Proud Jianghu had at least 5 times. Looking forward to the movie. The Jianghu. The movie was very, the movie. To the Jianghu, the movie, and the movie, the S. The Jit, The Jianghu tickets were very popular, especially the Jianghu version. Although Shanghai was a first-tier city, there weren't many cinemas with Jianghu. So Su Kai, who was lucky enough to get a ticket, didn't want to be late. It would be a pity if he missed the movie. Fortunately, he was quite lucky. There weren't too many cars on the road. It took him more than 10 minutes to find a parking space at Xinli Cinema. When he finally arrived at the Jianghu Theater, there were only 5 minutes left before the movie started. Thank God, holding a drink and popcorn in one hand and holding Kuyao's hand in the other, Su Kai found their seats and sat down. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh, with a look of lingering fear. Kuyao shook off his hand and rolled her eyes at him. Look at how anxious you are. Really? Su Kai chuckled and handed over the snacks he had just bought in a flattering manner. However, his attention was quickly attracted by the image that appeared on the screen. The movie had started. The eye-catching logo of Wanhao Pictures and the 4 golden words were the first thing that came into view. After half a minute of the introduction, a grand scene was projected on the screen. The towering mountains, the majestic city gates, and the row upon row of buildings were getting closer and closer. Su Kai couldn't help but hold his breath. He had seen the trailer of The Jianghu a long time ago, but the image that he saw on his computer and phone was completely different from what was shown on the screen. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. The combination of real scenes and CG was vividly displayed on the super high-resolution giant screen projection. It immediately captured Su Kai's heart and made him look forward to the subsequent plot. However, after half an hour, this feeling of anticipation weakened a lot. Su Kai's attention returned to his girlfriend. He turned his head and happened to see Kuyao yawn out of boredom. Then, she lazily stuffed 2 pieces of popcorn into her mouth with a disinterested expression. Although he knew that his girlfriend didn't like this type of movie, Su Kai felt very helpless when he saw Kuyao's expression. If he had known earlier, he would have watched Left and Right Love with her first and then watched The Jianghu alone. An hour later, Su Kai moved his butt. He felt that the cinema was a little stuffy and the air conditioning wasn't turned on enough. He looked at Kuyao again. She had actually fallen asleep on his shoulder. Su Kai's helplessness turned into a bitter smile. The 200 yuan that he had spent that night was wasted. After watching for another 20 minutes or so, Su Kai finally couldn't sit still anymore. He gently pushed Kuyao, who was still sleeping. Kuyao woke up with a start. She rubbed her sleepy eyes and asked, "Is it over?" "Not yet." Su Kai smiled bitterly. "It's about time. Let's go first. It'll be very crowded later." After a pause, he added, "I'll accompany you to the Jinsha shopping mall next door." Hearing about shopping mall, Kuyao's sleepiness instantly disappeared. "Okay, then let's go." She was bored to death. If it weren't for accompanying her boyfriend, she wouldn't have bothered to suffer like this. She couldn't wait to leave. The two of them left the cinema together and went to the shopping mall instead. When they returned home, it was already past 10 o'clock at night. Kuyao was happily trying on the new clothes she had just bought in the bedroom. Su Kai sat in front of the computer as if there was a fishbone stuck in his throat. He always felt that there was something stifling in his heart, and he had to get it out. He turned on the computer and skillfully logged into a forum that he frequented. In the film section, he opened a new post. The title was, "Just came back from watching The Jianghu of Youth. Talk about your feelings about watching it." After typing on the keyboard for 7 or 8 minutes and editing for a few more minutes, a short film review post came out. Su Kai looked at the edited content on the screen. He hesitated for a moment and then hit the enter key. Pa. The sound was crisp. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.